Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm going to talk about today is practical tips for increasing listening practice time. The purpose of this presentation is to help teachers of English consider how we think about listening tasks. It will provide guidance for increasing classroom listening practice through short, dedicated listening tasks. So the emphasis is not on the science or the theory of processing language, but on the practical business of setting up and class managing listening activities in order to give students more practice. The main point I will be talking about how to increase listening practice times in 5 tips. And the tips are: first, student do during. Second, say it. Third, keep it short. Next, play it again. And the last one, change it up. Before we start explanation about each tips, I would like to explain to you about the problem. The problem is that students get a little dedicated listening practice in the classes, and in some cases, they get almost none. Actually, the reasons are many. Teachers lack materials or equipment. They think the classroom are too noisy and crowded. They value speaking, reading, grammar, and vocabulary over listening. Their curricula are driven by standardized tests without listening component. But the main reason is a perception of what listening practice is and is not. So, ladies and gentlemen, in fact, in a classroom, there is a lot of not happening of listening activity. First, not listening. The last teacher training workshop I attended on the subject of listening actually provide a good illustration of not listening. After a lecture on pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening, the trainer over a demonstration. He played the role of the teacher while our participants were students. And we can see in the slide the structure of the lesson. Look at the figure 1. On the pre-listening, there are 3 sections. Introduction. Teacher asks the class if they like animals. Students volunteers answer. Teacher presents several riddles about animals and student guess answer. Teacher brings out a bag. Inside are stuffed animal that student can see, and the student asks questions until they determine what animal are inside. And then in while listening stage, students receive a handout with the 3 true or false statements. They listen a recorded dialogue about animals and take true or false, and they listen once. On the post-listening stage, students check the answer and then students create follow-up questions about animals. The teacher writes this on the board. At the first glance, ladies and gentlemen, this looks like a classic listening lesson, well organized and varied. Participating teachers enjoy it too. The topic of animal was appealing. We were not overburdened with grammar. And the guessing game featuring the realia of toys in a bag was a fun surprise. Neither participants nor trainer doubted that the primary focus of listening, and after all, the well listening task took a central position. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I had a stopwatch and time each segment of the lesson. The results show in the figure 2, we can see in our slide. Pre-listening is about 16 minutes, while listening is about 1 minute 5 seconds, and the post-listening is about 7 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, do you realize that 1 minute of listening was supported by 23 minutes of not listening activity? Okay, you might contend that the other tasks supported the central listening segment. Okay, maybe. But those tasks did not target listening practice. Or you might argue that there were elements of listening in step 1 and 2 of the pre-listening portion of the lesson because students would need to understand the teacher to form the responses. And maybe there were some listening elements, but what if students did not understand? There was no provision for that. The teacher took verbal answers from volunteers and moved on. The teacher couldn't measure who understood or identify or help those who did not. Ladies and gentlemen, if the participant of this demonstration lesson had been student and teacher, perhaps the trainer might have played the audio 2 or 3 times. That's an improvement. But even so, pre-listening and post-listening time dominated the lesson. So what is the question now? How much preparation does a 65 seconds audio warrant? If our goal is to increase listening practice, and the answer should be very little. Usually, even within a portion of class devoted to listening, actually, listening gets short shrift.